All right. Welcome to Deep Questions, Dark Chocolate number 6. We get to interview a life coach, Polly Mahoney, today. And this is going to be fun. I went to college with Polly, but we didn't cross paths a whole lot. Um, and she just recently joined our Deep Questions, Dark Chocolate discussions on Sunday mornings. And she's actually led some of those beautifully. Everybody loves them. And so recently she's become a life coach. She's also a parent, and she lives in the mountains and lakes of New Hampshire, in a beautiful area. And so she's got these fun things. We're going to hear about her life coaching practice and her practice of jumping in icy, cold, freezing water, what that does for her. And I'm going to start by kind of introducing you to her. I'm going to go through her Instagram page and just a few photos of her swimming in this cold, cold water, which is crazy. And that's ice out there, right, Polly?
Yeah, that's ice and that's snow. What the beach is
On the beach?
actually
Yeah,
just
okay.
snow. And
So you
yeah,
got a
that's
bunch of friends on this. You got a gang,
yeah,
huh?
yeah. We started a group after doing it for a couple years on our own. My neighbor and I just thought, hey, maybe there's some other people in our town who'd be interested. So we've got a whole group now.
Wow.
Yeah, do it
Cool, cool.
all winter
Is that
long.
Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire?
No, that's Silver Lake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good place. Yeah, I've been there. Okay. Cool. And there she is. I mean, you literally have to take an axe to the ice to get in there, don't you?
Yes, yes. We actually do have to take an axe sometimes. Yeah.
And you look happy, which is just we'll hear more about this. This is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you are, very clearly. This is after a swim? A
This
dip?
is yeah, I had just gotten out. You can see the hole there to the left or right at the bottom to the left. And yeah, I just jumped out. I'm on the river. The river is frozen. And yeah, but we try to keep some holes open to get in it.
Yeah.
It's a slow moving river, so don't be too concerned about me jumping with a like fast moving river underneath me.
uh-huh. Um, okay, just a second. We lost. Here we go. I always get some fun little technical issues. We go back to Zoom and share screen. Here we go. Sorry for the delay, but we're right there. Here we go. So here's Polly's Instagram page, and I'm going to scroll through it real slowly. Hopefully, this whets your appetite to go to her Instagram page. You can see all you do is go to Instagram and search Polly Mahoney Coaching. But you've got some great content and a lot of followers, which is cool. And as I scroll through this slowly, I just kind of, I guess what's amazing to me about Polly, since knowing her since we were in college together in our 20s, is ever since then, she's been one of the most happy human beings I've ever come across. And, and in these times, there's a significant percentage of our population that's truly struggling to be happy. And so I kind of, and then the other fact I love is that Yale, this prestigious Ivy League school, the number one most popular class ever is a course on happiness. I believe it's called The Science of Well-Being. And so people are lining up to get in that class. And I think you kind of sum it up well in this little photo down here where you say, yeah, on the bottom left, this one right here, we can live simply for the joy of it. Maybe that's the whole point. So can you unpack a little bit of your secret to happiness? Because again, it's just effusive and infectious, and it's always more fun when you're on our Sunday calls just for that reason.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. Okay, so you want me to unpack joy, living
Yeah.
simply for the joy
Yeah.
of it. How do I obtain joy? Um, well, I would say, first of all, there's a difference between joy and happiness. I think happiness is more of a response to what's happening. Like it makes us happy. And joy is more of a continual internal state. And I think for me, I truly believe that joy is something that is, I don't create, it's something that exists, within and beyond me. And so my work is to find a way to be in connection with it. I believe it is my right to be in connection with it. It is here for me. So it is my, privileged to figure out what might be in the way of joy, and reopen that channel, because I think we're supposed to be in joy all the time. It doesn't mean we're supposed to be in happiness all the time. I think we can be in joy while feeling other things, while not feeling happiness. I think we could be in sadness and still be in joy, because, well, let me say it from this perspective. I think the thing that brings us into joy, or one of the paths to joy, is curiosity. I think if we can be curious about where is the joy in this? Where might the joy be in this? Then we have a path to open up beyond where our mind goes, where our trained mind goes. Our trained mind wants to look outside of us. That's what we're taught to, where we're taught to find joy is outside of us. So our mind is trained to look outside, find the happiness outside of us. But curiosity kind of opens that up and says, maybe it goes beyond what's right in front of me. How could joy actually be here when this thing in front of me isn't making me happy? Where could the joy be? And that's just the beginning of the journey to ask that question. Then we can discover joy in so many different places. I think that my cold water dipping practice has been a real great trainer for me in this, because we go in that water no matter what, no matter how cold the air is.
Every day, yeah.
There are times we don't go in when it is, well below zero. We're not in there. When it's like freezing, when you get out and the ice freezes on your skin, chances are we probably aren't going in that day.
You go in nor'easters, the big storms, snowstorms.
Oh yeah, we do go in during big storms. Yeah, I am fortunate that the river runs right by my house, and so I can just walk right down the path to the river. So, but going into cold water in all kinds of weather makes you ask this question about what is beautiful here? What is good here? This, it's obviously cold. Like, you don't have to tell yourself it's cold. Like, that's so obvious. That, like, you get over that thought after the first few dips. It's like, okay, I'm not doing this because it's cold. I'm doing it for other reasons. What are the other reasons? And then you just find yourself going, wow, look at all these things that I didn't notice before, because all I was thinking of is it's cold. But you sort of like go, okay, yeah, it's cold. Yeah. What else is it? It's beautiful. Oh my gosh, look at the ice. Look at the woods. Look at listen to the sound of that river. It is the feeling on my body. Yeah, it's cold, but it's so much more complex than that. It's enlivening. It was cold a moment ago, and now it kind of feels like it's burning. Interesting. Now it's just feeling like kind of comfortable. Well, that's interesting. So it's just this playing with curiosity, I think, is one of the paths to open up joy. I think that opens up, it doesn't create it. Joy's already there. It's always there for us. It just opens it up so that we can actually see it or re-see it. It's something's just in our way, and when we're curious, it opens it back up.
So, sorry, we got our questions a little out of order, which is fine, but is the Wim Hof science of this, is that part of it for you, or is that just secondary to your joy in the dipping?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great science, and it has been really studied over the last few years. I think during the pandemic, there was such an explosion of interest in it because it was an outdoor activity that people could do together. And the pandemic began in the wintertime, at least in this hemisphere. And people just were willing to do different things. And it just exploded all over the world. When I first got on Instagram, which was probably sometime in 2020, I started following all the cold water dippers. And I could follow all the cold water dippers at that time. I mean, there were probably in maybe 100 or more that I could find. I mean, there's no way I could follow them all now because it has exploded. There are just thousands and thousands of individuals and groups. So I guess what I was saying about that is that, yeah, it has grown in popularity. And as it has grown in popularity, it has been studied more. So there's a lot of science about, what it does for your body, what it does, for your mental health. There's just tremendous benefits to it. I don't really, when I go into the water, I don't really think about those things. I just go in because I know what it feels like, and I know the way how joyful it makes me feel. I love the connection with the other people when I do it in a group of people. So yeah, it's not all about the Wim Hof science, but that's definitely a cool piece of it.
So when you get out and you go into your day in the morning, is it kind of an enervating feeling through the day after doing that?
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. It really is. And a calming feeling.
Yeah.
Really calming feeling. I know you asked something about, does it make you extremely awake or alert?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say yes, but not in the way you might think. Like usually when we think of awake and alert, we think of like razor sharp, like our mind is working, really well and we're able to think really great. It's more of a whole body awakeness. As I was talking about, like being in there and just how your senses all come online. Your brain kind of shuts down because it's like too cold for your brain to process. Like, we don't know what we're doing here. This is outside the box. So the brain is just sort of like, it's like checks out, at least for a moment it does, because it's such a shock to the system. The brain is like, I don't know what we're doing. But the rest of the senses just really come online. And I find that when I get out, I feel like, I don't know if this is true, but I just feel like all my senses are more heightened. My hearing, my seeing, and so the awakeness and the awareness and the sharpness afterwards is more of just a sense of connection with everything. And that continues. Yeah. And it does make you, like, it does wake you up and it does make your brain function better. But to me, it's more of that whole body thing that I experience that I just love.
Yeah, you inspired me. So I was just on a vacation in Michigan, and I was at this cottage that was 162 steps up the dunes to get into the cottage. And so it was 54-degree water, which is probably a nice warm day for you. But
that's pretty cold nonetheless.
But anyway, I hung out in there and I just zoomed up those stairs. Like, it was no problem. It was fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, so for those who want to dip their toe into this and practice it, cold, ending your shower on cold, does that do anything for you? Or I know a lot of people are trying this because of you.
Yeah. There are two aspects to me of this. There's the cold water, and that has benefits, no matter where you experience it. You can experience it in a shower, and it does wake you up, and it does feel paradoxically great, to be in this cold water. I don't usually do that because I have another place I can go to get that. What I get from my experience in the river is this immersion in nature.
Yeah.
And so that's my preferred way to do it, because, the shower is great for the cold part of the experience, but for the nature immersion piece, it's just a ramped up version of that. I mean, cold water is nature as well. Any moving water that you're in is being in contact with an element. So being in a shower, being in a bath is connection with nature. I don't want to poo-poo that, because we are in connection with an element when we're doing that. And that has power too, as well.
Okay, so as long as you're going on this track, there's several things in your Instagram photos I'd love for you to unpack. You use the word play and mess. Life isn't life just here to play and mess. And then I've seen the video you made of the Swift River behind your house. It's super clear water. And what does that do for you? Because I've been to like Walden Pond, and I understand why that beautiful clear water was so inspirational to Henry David Thoreau, which he writes about so much. What does that do for you?
Hmm. So the water in particular, or the
I mean, the water, the play, the mess, the nature. I mean,
yeah,
you're hugging a tree, which I love.
yeah.
I mean, nature's speaking to you, and that's very true for some people in our
Yeah,
group.
yeah.
I love
Well, we moved here 5 years ago. We'd owned our house up in New Hampshire for a while, but we moved here full time 5 years ago. And nature just became so much more of my everyday experience. Just being in the woods, being in the river, just ranging around, not even like going on a hike, but just exploring, just being out in the woods and seeing what's out there. And I think that they're just, it's just filled with so many lessons and so much trust and so much mess. Like, it's not all neat out there, but yet it all works perfectly. And, as a tree falls and the ground, just the earth, the microorganisms, everything works together to disintegrate that tree back into the earth and recycle those nutrients back into a tree and back into plants and back into oxygen. The cycle of the water, as the river comes right by my house, it's also evaporating up and becoming more rain and coming back down. And just living in connection with those cycles has just relaxed me. It has made me feel like I'm being held in such a bigger container, that this universe is, well, at least the part of it that I can see and experience readily, it's working really beautifully. And it would seem strange to me that a lot of humanity is outside of that. Like, I just think there is so much more that is working beautifully within us than we are aware of, or we are conscious of, or we kind of give credit to. And gosh, I mean, as I say, it has relaxed me, sort of embracing the complexity of everything within and without me in nature. Like, my body is so much more complex than I will ever understand in a human lifetime, that science will ever understand in a human lifetime. Like, you just take one part of our system, and there are millions of parts of our system that no one has any idea how it works,
Yep. Yep.
And to me, that's incredibly comforting, that there are these beautiful systems in place that are keeping things in balance. I find great comfort in that. And it just makes me sort of worship the mess. What our human mind would call the mess. As I walk through the forest and I find this deteriorating thing on the ground, I'm like, oh, wow, look at that. It's beautiful. Look what that represents. Look at the trust we can have just seeing that one little deteriorating thing and knowing what that's part of. That just speaks to me. And having moved here, that has been like the message that has just been booming toward me from the woods. and from the river and from the earth and from the trees, just like there's so much more than you understand. You can
Well,
relax.
has moving there, you use that word play a lot in your photos. Has that inspirational nature inspired you to just be more uninhibited and playful in it
Yeah,
with
yeah.
just alone or with friends, or how does that work?
Um, all of the above.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that that sense of comfort that comes from being in nature and trust that comes from just knowing like there's got to be something bigger at work here because all of this is working and we don't even understand it. All of that is working and we don't even understand it. So, um, we might as well just play. Like we don't have to, we don't have to use these lives to make everything work. Maybe that's not why we're here. Maybe we're here to enjoy it. Maybe we're here to play. And yeah, there are things I definitely want to do in my life. And also, maybe playing and messing around is also a wonderful way to spend a life.
It's interesting when you read the near-death experience genre of literature, a lot of them say that. So
Yeah,
as we've gone and come back. So
right,
I like
right. Yeah, yeah.
cool. Well, that's fun. I bet you're glad you moved there. And it kind of makes me understand why people pay like double for water view homes, because in that week I spent in Michigan, I was up way above the water. I could see forever. And I just found myself in this living room, just constantly looking up whenever I was eating or reading, or I just kept looking up to see what's changed on the lake. And it was awesome. So yeah, I get it. Um, okay. Can we transition to life coaching?
Sure, sure,
Okay, so I'm
sure.
not sure how long you've been in life coaching now, but what inspired you to do it? What do you appreciate about it? Um,
Yeah,
what's your favorite approach to it? Sorry.
yeah, yeah. So, spirituality has been so central to my life since I was pretty young, all the way back to like middle school, I think, is when I had my first really great Sunday school teacher. And I kind of got turned on to something and just felt like, I don't know, I just really want to learn about this. I really want to, there's something really beautiful and important here for me. And I was, for many, many years, I was an educator. And um, that I felt like in my work in education, it included so many beautiful elements of spirituality. And I always yearned for something that felt more direct, like a more direct spiritual connection in my work, a more direct spiritual conversation in my work, a more direct spiritual experience in my work. And during the pandemic, like so many of us, that pause time, it just gave me so much space and time to just really sink into what am I supposed to be doing? And we had recently moved up to New Hampshire, and I had some wonderful jobs in the community that I was loving, but I just knew I had to keep following that yearning inside. And I knew about life coaching, and somehow I'd known about life coaching for decades, and somehow I had convinced myself that I just wasn't ready. And I don't know, I think during that time, during the pandemic, I just finally saw through that. Just realized, what the heck is that?
Did it take a
And
little element of boldness to just jump in and throw yourself out there, put up your shingle?
what did you say?
Did it take an element of boldness to just kind of put yourself out there, throw up your shingle and
Well, I took a training. I started with one train. I mean, I've had many, many trainings now because I am sort of like a serial learner. so I am a little bit of a glutton for training. But I took my first training during the pandemic, and it was pretty. Yeah, it does take an element of boldness to put yourself out there. And also there was a real naturalness to it too, because people just started referring other people to me, and that just began my practice. And then, you know, I'd have more and more referrals. And so that's how it just began, really. Um, so yeah, and it has been such a fascinating journey to just sort of figure out how to be with someone who is trying to understand something. And I've got all kinds of training, and I have all kinds of methodologies, um, and I use them, and they're all very powerful. And also, probably the most powerful thing is humans being together and humans listening to each other and witnessing each other, and just, you know, I mean, it's such a cliche, but just really holding the space of someone's experience and just saying, hey, that's valuable, that's a valuable experience, let's be with this. That you can't underestimate the power of simply that.
Mhm.
Yeah. And well, I'll just ask you if you have a follow-up question
Well,
to
yeah.
that.
So do you get those magical moments where you're kind of turning to the divine and someone's describing a problem to you, you don't really know how to address it, but then something outside of you and your client kind of kicks
Yeah.
in that kind
Yeah.
of lifts the outlook for both of you, life outlook?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but let me first say, clients come with all kinds of the very typical stresses of our modern world, you know, relationship issues, work issues, body issues, to just name a few. And I think that what generally brings somebody to the point of seeking help from a life coach or a therapist or someone else is they just feel overwhelmed. They just feel like I can't do this on my own. I've been trying to do it on my own and I'm just stuck, and I don't know what to do anymore with this issue. Or else sometimes it's somebody comes and they're like, yeah, things are going pretty well, but I want them to go better and I don't know how to do that. Um, and what is often the the thing that kind of bumps it up from I'm handling this okay on my own to I can't handle this, I need help, is the issue they're dealing with has become so personalized. They are feeling like it's not about this thing out there, that they're just having a hard time solving this thing out there. It's like, why can't I? What's wrong with me that, you know, I'm broken because you know, I can't. And I think that that's a hallmark of our culture, which is so individualistic, that we all feel like everything's about us. Everything is just ours to solve. And we put so much pressure on ourselves and so much added stress and shame on ourselves for having a struggle. And being a human is hard. It is, struggle is built into the mix of being a human, but somehow in our individualistic society we feel like we're supposed to just be able to just jump over every single thing real quick and just keep moving forward, and that's just really not the way it works. It is hard. And when we start feeling like, oh, I should have figured this out already, what's wrong with me, just becomes a really big thing. So much about my work is removing shame, is helping people not feel shame, to and allowing others to witness themselves with compassion and care and a sense of normalcy. Like, it's okay that you're struggling with this. Because once there's compassion and care within ourselves, the answers we can access are so much more available to us. Like, shame shuts everything off, and compassion and care And curiosity opens everything up. So I use a lot of approaches to bring people to that place of curiosity and compassion and care, and being able to witness themselves with that view instead of the shaming what's wrong with me view. And I will say that at the heart of all of the different approaches that I use is the deep knowing that everybody has those answers inside them. That it is, those answers are right there. They're right there, closer than their breath. They are right there for them. And so, you know, you asked if I think what you asked, oh, I know, you were asking about the sort of the divine, you know, opening up to the divine. I think that is the opening up to the divine. It is that process of opening up to the divine happens in me as I trust the client, trust that they have within them what they need. And that is an invitation, and through questions that I ask, that is an invitation to them to gently open up to the answers that are within them. And I think that so that is the divine right there. And sometimes it is something I'm very aware of in terms of like, it's a shared moment between us and we're both like, whoa, it's like a big aha for both of us. And there's this shared awareness. Sometimes that's happening. And sometimes it's something very quiet that I can just tell is happening inside the client. And, you know, they're only sharing with me the piece of it that they can put into words. And sometimes there are more words and sometimes there are fewer words. Sometimes what's going on inside them is just a very quiet thing. And there's very, you know, there are not that many words about it. They are just feeling it. And sometimes they're, you know, keeping me right up to date with, okay, and now I'm thinking this, and now I'm feeling this, and now, you know, and there's like a lot of dialogue between us. But whether or not there's like this big named realization, I think the work for me is holding that divinity in both of us, bearing witness to it in me, and hopefully enabling them to bear witness to it in them. And I mean, it's basically love's presence. Just, and so, you know, it can look so many different ways in a session.
So one of your Instagram videos, you're swimming in the river, literally, and you're basically saying it's okay. It's whatever is going on, it's going to be okay. And so you talk about river wisdom. Is that something that comes to you in that river nature setting?
Yeah. Oh, that's it. I love that you asked that question, because my I do some of my coaching I do online, you know, on Zoom, and I love that. And it feels very, you know, that the same kind of wisdom feels accessible to me right here on Zoom. And as I'm sitting here, I'm looking out at the woods. I've got a beautiful window there that looks out at the woods. But with my local clients, I should have included a picture of this. I have this little outdoor office, which is right by the river. And we have a fireplace with 2 Adirondack chairs right by the river there. And the trees are all around us and the river's flowing by. And there's usually a fire going no matter what the weather is, because there are bugs in New Hampshire. And so keep some mosquitoes away because it's pretty smoky. So yeah, I honestly, before those sessions, my outdoor sessions, and even my sessions on Zoom, I tune into that wisdom. I tune into the power that is operating everything in nature, and just humble myself to it, and just know, like, I'm a tiny piece of this whole thing. We are a tiny piece of this whole thing, but this whole thing is working through us. And I just ask for the witness and the support of everything around me in this work. And you know, in moments in coaching, there are moments where you just feel like you know, as a coach, you get a little triggered by something that's coming up in a client, or as a, you know, in your work, you can get triggered by something that's coming up in a student as they're talking to you. And it, you know, for me, it's just coming back to this bigger container that's holding all of us, and just knowing, oh, I don't have to figure this out. That's just my mind. That's just my human mind going, oh, you might not have the answer for this. And just like, that's okay. I can let that go. Of course, I'm not going to have the answer to this. That's not what this is about. So letting that go and knowing, okay, that's in the client. That wisdom is in the client, closer than their breath. It's right there, and it's in everything around us. And we can just open up to that. It's right here for us. Yeah.
Okay. One last question on this, because it's about, you know, I work with college students, and the statistics on this are about half of college students are struggling with some form of depression or anxiety. And I don't know how much that comes up in your practice, but and so for a lot of them, they feel like their mind is being attacked, and they struggle to gain control of their own mind. Have you found what's the most helpful thing for you in terms of gaining control? And like Joe Dispenza talks about, your mind can be like a wild animal. Like, he rides horses, and he has to be very firm with those horses, because he doesn't ride them often, so they just do their own thing, throw them into a fence and stuff like that, and he finds he has to get very firm with them. And he uses that analogy of, you have to get very firm with your own thought, and tell it where it's going to go and what it's going to do. What
Yeah,
is helpful
yeah.
for you with
My approach, personally and professionally, is a little different.
Mhm.
Um, I, you know, the mind is incredibly powerful, incredibly helpful. It's good at doing certain things and not good at doing other things. And wants to be involved in everything, though. But our prefrontal cortex, our really good, fast, speedy supercomputer of a brain, works really well when our body is calm. And and when we are not calm, we don't have access to it. And what we do have access to is our fight or flight thoughts that are kind of in our, you know, our brain is really efficient. As soon as it can, it wants to move stuff to the back files, sort of like it doesn't want to have to like think hard about stuff that it doesn't have to think hard about. It wants to move it back to our like long-term memory. So a lot of the stuff in our long-term memory is the scary stuff, because our brain is built, you know, our survival part of our brain, not a bad thing. It's just the way it was built to keep us alive and get us to this point in evolution. It remembers the bad stuff to keep us from eating like the purple berries that killed our brother, or are eating the, you know, walking by that river where that one tree fell, and then that you know, tiger came around, and so we always avoid it. We, you know, we don't even remember why, you know. So our brain is so good at holding on to the bad stuff. And so when we get stressed and our prefrontal cortex shuts down, our, you know, what options our brain has is all the stuff that's in the files. Now, it's not all the scary stuff, but that's a lot of it, because our brain's really good at holding that stuff. And so, yeah, you can try to like control that. And I can see Joe Dispenza's, perspective on that. But I want to get myself back to the place where I can use my prefrontal cortex. I can use the part of my brain that actually can consider all the alternatives, that can be open to lots of options. And frankly, looking at it through a spiritual lens, that's the part of my brain that is open to love, that is receiving and open to curiosity and compassion and care. It's not that those things are gone when I'm in the survival brain, but the survival brain just can't see them or consider them. So I want, because my body led the way to me thinking those thoughts, my body has to lead the way back to having access to the kind of thoughts that I want to have. So my way of, control is not to like clamp down on the thoughts. It's to come back to the body and relax the body. So there's so many simple ways to do it. Like, I'll just talk about a few of them right now because they're so fast and so effective. One is peripheral vision. Like, if you are looking at a computer and you stare at your camera, and you just keep looking at that point, and then you widen your eyes out to the sides of the room, and you widen your eyes to the ceiling and the floor, and you just look at everything you possibly can, and even try to wrap your eyes around you and see everything you can while staring at that. It's very hard to stay in stress when you do that, because what's happening in your body is your eyes, which are part of your brain, they are giving your brain the message that, oh, we're comfortable looking all around us. And when you're in stress, your vision goes like this. When you're being chased by something through the woods, you're not looking all around. You are looking right ahead of you because you are trying to get away. You don't want to trip. You don't care what's around you. You're not looking for food. You are like getting away. So when you are in the mode of looking for food, when looking all around you, your brain is relaxed. That's the way your brain works. So you just gave your brain the message, we're safe. We're safe. So like, that's one little thing you can do. Another thing you can do, which is really fast, is you grab something on your desk and you just go like this, back and forth from one hand to the other, crossing the midline. And what happens is that when you're thinking those stressful thoughts, they're on one, your brain has two hemispheres. They're going to be in one hemisphere of your brain. Those thoughts are. And when you're doing this, you're lighting up one side of the other side, one hemisphere, the other hemisphere. And your brain just gets kind of confused. It's like, wait, what were we thinking about? It just can't really hold on to that thought in the same way. And so your stress just sort of starts to come down because your brain is like, I forget it. I don't remember what we're thinking about. So it's just like, they're kind of hacks, to bring yourself back into your body, to take your brain out of that, looking quickly through the old files, and just, coming back on, bringing your prefrontal cortex back online, because your body is like, oh, we're okay. We're okay. So those are just two quick things that I do.
Breathing, breath work, is that part of it for you?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. There's so many different kinds of breath work.
Mm-hmm.
And, probably the thing that I do that is do more than anything else is I just put my hand on my heart, because when I feel anxious about something, my heart beats hard. I mean, that's usually the thing that happens fastest for me, is I can feel my heart beating. Just take a breath with my hands on my heart. And I just talk to myself sweetly. And I just say, oh, sweetheart. I'm just really talking to my body and I'm saying, you're just having some big feelings right now. Oh, I can feel that. I can feel that you're having some big feelings. That's okay. You're allowed to have some big feelings. Big feelings happen, they move through. It's okay. And I just normalize it. I just normalize the fact that nothing's gone wrong. Emotions come, emotions go. It's okay when they happen. And it actually, when we don't feed them with another thought and another thought, it takes about 90 seconds for an emotion to pass through our system. It rises, and you can actually you can feel it begin to fall and just drain out of your system. So that's the thing I do more than anything else, is just, oh, sweetheart, right here, it's okay. You're allowed to have a big feeling. That's a normal thing. Have that. It's okay.
Nice. Love it. Love it. So beyond your coaching practice, are there any other spiritual practices? I know you've read about a lot and thought about a lot.
Yeah.
What's meaning the most to you right now?
Right now, I would say that more than anything, it is silence and being in nature, being in my body, being in silence, being in nature. I have a tendency to earn my worth through anything I can possibly put my hands on, And so I have found that in the past, I've used a lot of spiritual practices. They very quickly morph, in my experience, into a spiritual to-do, into a thing I can feel shame about because I haven't done it as consistently as I told myself I was going to. And it's like too slippery of a slope for me right now. So right now for me, I am just really experimenting with intuitive spiritual practices. What feels right now? Do I need to walk? Do I need a nap? Do I need to cry? Do I need to just be quiet? Do I need to just write all these feelings down? And just do what feels like the thing that my system is telling me to do.
I love your Instagram video where you said, it's 1 PM. I'm in bed. I'm not sick. I'm just tired. I need a little nap. And feeling no shame about that at all. I love it.
It's so funny to me because of all my Instagram posts, that is one of the ones that got more than any other views. Like, I couldn't believe there are 2 that got like over 10,000 views, and that's one of them.
Really? It strikes a chord. It definitely does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And I know you're an avid reader, and I know you love authors like Martha Beck and Andrea Gibson. Who's speaking to you the most today? Why?
Well, this just sort of goes along with what I just said. Right now, I'm taking a break from reading.
Really?
Because, I found that maybe it started during the pandemic when we, were isolated, but there was such an explosion, I think, during that time of putting things online, of writing books, of, and suddenly and part of it is, I've been in training from, in so many different ways for my work. I just felt like suddenly I had this overwhelming amount of stuff that I wanted to read, that I wanted to learn, that I wanted to, and like I said, it became this slippery slope of, oh my gosh, I've got to learn all these things. I've got to read all these things. I've got to learn and do and listen. And there was a stressful element to that to me. It didn't feel supportive of my growth. It didn't feel like that's what I needed. So
So is it more just about you and the divine, listening to that?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So right now I'm really trying to just spend more time with whatever's coming through me rather than what's coming, putting more things in me. I just kind of felt like I topped out, like I just was overflowing. The Buddhist thing about how you can't fill a cup that's already full. And I felt like my cup was running over. And what I needed most was integration. I just needed to integrate all the stuff that I had learned. And so right now, that's where I'm at. I'm just trying to incorporate more silence, more direct experience of my own into my life rather than reading about other people's direct experience, other people's thought. Like every book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, whether it's a spiritual book or any kind of book, it all came out of silence. It came out of someone listening to themselves. And every book, no matter what kind it is, it's, to me, it's a most successful book when I feel like I just read something and then I just sit back and I have a moment with it on my own. That's the power of a book, is that moment on your own. And I think I started to ask myself, how how it's not sort of how much of my time, but how much of my energy am I actually using to develop my ability to tune into my own direct experience, my own listening. So it occurred to me, I need to give that more space. I need to give that more time. So that's sort of what I'm playing with right now, is more time and space, not for other people's ideas as much as I love them, but just to be in nature and to just see what's flowing through and see what's out there.
Yeah, the author, basketball coach Phil Jackson, described it as an authentic synthesis, that he kind of synthesized all the great spiritual religious thinkers he was reading, and then got to a place where he started to learn to trust his own gut. Because he had one game where he made a decision where he wasn't trusting his own gut, turned out really bad, and he's like, "That's it. From now on, I'm listening to what's going on inside my own heart."
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So you talked a lot about shame. I
Yeah.
know Brene Brown talks a lot about shame resilience. Is
Yeah.
that something that's spoken to you on that?
Sure.
Big topic
Sure.
for her.
It has. Yeah. Yeah. I think that for me, shame resilience is so much about curiosity about the thing that we feel ashamed of.
Hmm.
It is moving toward it, that thing that we're so ashamed of. It's moving toward the painful thing and opening up our heart to it and saying, huh, we have these stories and we have these judgments of all these different things in our lives. And I think there's deep wisdom in all the struggles in our lives. There's so much deep wisdom in those things. There's so much deep wisdom in our sadness. There's deep wisdom in our anger. There's deep wisdom in our frustration or our anxiety about something. So to me, shame resilience is the ability to to develop curiosity about the things in our lives, that not putting things in containers of these are the bad things and these are the good things, but having a container that holds all the things and allows all the things and says, wow, you wouldn't be here if there wasn't something in you that was worthy. So I'm going to be curious about you. I'm going to get to know you and let you tell me why you're here.
Cool. Cool. Okay, one more question. So I think this may have come up when you're on one of the Sunday calls, maybe not. But Rob Bell talks about the religious package or container all of us grew up with,
Yeah.
and how middle point of life, like we're in, you start to learn, maybe decades ago, what you're going to keep from that, all the good from that, and what you're going to let go of. And
Yeah.
how has that process played out for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I don't think I have, this might just be the way I am, but I don't think I have a lot of allegiance to, I don't have a lot of allegiance to my past. So I don't start from a place of feeling like, um what do I want to keep and what do I want to throw away so much. Although I guess, there are things that are just in me that are useful, and it's not because I have an allegiance to them, it's just because they're useful. um I think it's about it's my body has become this best friend and most trusted instrument in my life. Like an instrument on a ship or an airplane that is guiding you and telling you how to move. I feel like it is just filled with so much authentic wisdom about what I know and what I feel and what feels right. And so I really trust and I've really turned to my body as a way of knowing, how does this idea sit with me?
When you say
And
your
so
body, like the feeling in here, in your chest?
yeah, for me, it's in my chest. I mean, some people feel it in their gut. Some people feel it in their neck or their shoulders, or, like, I think the heart, the chest is a place a lot of people feel. But people can be different. And so I really use that as the way to determine whether something is feeling authentic to me or not. Yeah. So yeah, that's the how, in terms of how do I determine whether, something is stays or goes or is useful or not useful. It's, how does it feel? Does it feel right? Or does it feel like a pressure? Does it feel smooth? Does it feel open, flowing? Or does it feel like tight? Yeah.
Well, the pivotal book when we were in high school with Clark Biameshi, we read Walden. I don't know if you were in his class or
Oh, yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that book really blew me open. I love how Thoreau says, to live deep and suck the marrow out of life. And you're somebody who does that in a beautiful way. So thank you for sharing this hour. And yeah, and I hope you guys, if you want to hear more, probably join us on Sunday mornings on Zoom on Deep Questions, Dark Chocolate. Just drop your email in the comments below and I'll get you on our list. And like the video if you did, and if subscribe, then it gets Polly out to more people. And I guess that's
And
maybe,
if you want to find me on Instagram, it's Polly
yeah,
Mahoney.
Polly
And
Mahoney coaching on Instagram. Yeah.
yeah. And if you want to talk to me about anything, just DM me on Instagram.
Yeah. And Mahoney's Mahooney.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, cool. Polly, thank you so much. That was so cool. And hopefully if we play our cards right, you'll lead some more sessions. Maybe you have some ideas cooking in there.
Yeah. Yes, always.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much,
much.
Polly. Appreciate it. Take care.
Okay. Bye.